Hey guys, so these last couple weeks I noticed this little trend happening, this about me video games thing. And since right now I am doing the 24-hour challenge to try and fix my sleep schedule, I figured what better time to do this than when I was sleep deprived. But as I was in the process of gathering all the games that I would think would fit here for me, I realized I could do a little bit more than just a Twitter post. Why don't I make this little video?
He's losing his mind.
Now, I'm not expecting this video to do big numbers, right? But I figured, hey, if I'm doing this anyway, I might as well make a little content out of it, right? So, this is what I have set up. Painstakingly made. And made sure that you guys can't see what the games are going to be beforehand. So, a couple caveats. I decided to put some rules on this. Number one was I cannot use any repeats of games. I could use sequels, because sometimes sequels do different things in the previous game, which are different enough to allow it, right? But generally, I'm not going to use the same game twice. So if you see, so let's say, for example, I don't know, Prototype 1's in here, right? I'm not saying it is, but let's say it's in here. I'm not going to use it again for somewhere else, right? So that was the first thing. And the second thing, I was not going to discount collection games, right? Because I feel like if they're all available in one package that I can load it all from, like Bioshock collection, Mass Effect collection, the DMC collection, etc., I'm going to count that as one game because it's one application you load up, right? So, with all that, let's get started and just dive right in, right?
Finally!
So we're obviously going to start with the favorite game of all time. Now this one you guys are probably going to guess is Final Fantasy XIV.
I am shocked! Shocked! Well, not that shocked.
I mean, come on. Anyone who has watched me over the years has heard me gush and rave about this game like crazy. And a lot of it has to do, honestly, with just the fact that I met a lot of my current really good close friends on this. Now, if that was the only prerequisite for this, then technically Destiny 2 would be on here as well, because friends I have known for over 10 fucking years I met through Destiny 2. But here's the thing, I don't know if I consider Destiny 2 my favorite game. So, I decided to go with A Realm Reborn. Because one, I love the story. Two, I actually did enjoy the combat quite a bit. And three, as I said at the start of this, a lot of my close friends I met through this game. Now, moving on to best story, I decided to go with Mass Effect. Specifically, the Legendary Edition, which is all three games. Like I said, I'm not discounting collections, especially because Mass Effect 1, 2, and 3 are kind of an overarching story. I really do think that the Mass Effect trilogy is probably one of the best sci-fi video game stories we have gotten. Even with the somewhat fumbles that Mass Effect 3 has done with the third game, right? At the very least, with the overall impact of your choices and the overall arcing threat of the Reapers. I do believe enough of the character endings, Mordin, Liara, Garrus, like all of your companions, like all the stories you've built up, I believe end near perfectly in 3. Especially with the Citadel DLC, it's just perfect. And it is one of those games that I wish I could erase my memory of to experience again. So I'm going to tell you right now, I do make a little bit minor adjustments to these categories because favorite art style, that's the next one, right? The problem is style is not the same as art direction. And style kind of limits what you can say, right? So I decided to change this to art direction. And that game is Elden Ring. Elden Ring's art direction pretty much proves the point that you do not need the best graphics. You do not need photorealism. You don't need the highest quality of textures as long as you got your world design and your art direction down. And Elden Ring is one of those games I would say perfects it. Moving on, I'll finish it someday. Now here's the thing. There are quite a few games that are like this for me, but the one I kept thinking about had to be Octopath Traveler. Octopath Traveler is an excellent game. I love the art style, the combat is engaging, the music is fantastic. I must have started it like 6 times. And I have yet to actually finish a full playthrough. And a lot of it does have to do with how the game segments its stories with its characters. That, and every time I decide to actually pick it back up, something else comes out that takes my attention away. Maybe I'll finish it. Who knows? I mean, after all, a 3rd game is coming out, as it was announced at the Nintendo Direct. So maybe I'll finish it in time for that, right? Yeah, right.
You stupid.
Anyway, moving on to personal impact. This one was one of those selections that was very easy for me. Very, very easy. And it's quite simply Persona 4 Golden. Persona 4 Golden, I first played when it came out on the Vita. And that was at a time when, I guess you could say, emotionally and mentally, I was kind of starting to shut off from the world. Because I played around 2013, I believe. Yeah, and without getting too much into details, school life kind of started falling apart for me around that area. But Persona 4 was kind of the first real JRPG I kind of played. And its story of self-acceptance and learning to believe in yourself and to be yourself and to lean on others when needed really helped me through a dark time, which is why that's also one of the games I actually consider for favorite game of all time as well, simply because of how much of an impact it had on my life and how I carried myself from then on. But I decided I think personal impact was a better place for it to be. Now, best combat. Best combat is strange because it's a vague term, right? This could mean best combat in an FPS, best combat in a fighting game, best combat in an action game. And so that can lead to kind of a weird thing where I just know some people are going to see the result and say, why don't you pick this? Why don't you pick that? But at the end of the day, you have to go with what feels in your gut about this thing, right? So I decided to choose Monster Hunter, specifically Monster Hunter Wilds. Now, this game has been infamous for the last several months. And not completely undeserved, right? Because the PC optimization is absolutely horrendous. At launch, it ran so bad on my PC, I had to pick up a console version. Because at the very least, the console version ran at a stable frame rate. But, removing all performance things aside, I have been a Monster Hunter fan since Freedom Unite, right? That was the first one I played. I played Freedom Unite, I played Freedom Unite 2, I played Monster Hunter 4 Ultimate. I didn't have a Wii U, so I never played 3 until much, much later. I played Monster Hunter World, Monster Hunter Rise, Monster Hunter Generations Ultimate, Monster Hunter Stories 2. I played a lot of these games. And I really do think that once they finally get their heads out of their asses and fix the performance on PC, and especially once the expansion comes out, right? Because that's the other thing with Monster Hunter games. I've noticed this constantly, which is the new Monster Hunter comes out. People hate it. The old one was better. Then the next one comes out. Oh, this game sucks. The one we previously hated was better. So on and so forth. It has been a common thing in this community, right? But I really do think that World set a perfect groundwork, and Wilds really kind of perfected it. The monster AI is a lot more impressive. The adjustments to a lot of the weapons are significantly better. Greatsword has never felt better, for example. So yeah, for me, it's going to be Monster Hunter Wilds. Now, worst fan base. So here's the thing. There's a lot you could put here. But at the end of the day, it all depends on which fan base irks you the most. Now, because I'm a salt tuber, some people are expecting, oh, you're going to put PlayStation, you're going to put Xbox, you're going to put Nintendo. And no. For this, I decided to specify game fan bases. And for me, personally, the worst fan base has to be Persona 5's fan base. Now, let's be clear here. I love Persona 5. I'm a big Persona guy. I love the series. And Persona 5 is a great game. But the fans? Oh my fucking god, dude. The fans are genuinely some of the most annoying, obtuse, and illiterate people I think I've ever seen. And a lot of that has to do with the fact that so many of these self-proclaimed fans never even touched the game. That's a big meme, right? Persona fans don't play games. But the unfortunate truth is, it's true. Because so many of them will proudly proclaim that they haven't played the game themselves. They've only watched a playthrough. And the problem is that a lot of the times, They get things wrong. It's crazy how often they just get basic things that the story is screaming at you and just get it wrong. It blows my mind. And it annoys the piss out of me because all these idiots do is just actively drive people away from this, quite frankly, fantastic franchise. So that's why for me, worst fan base has to be Persona 5. Now, Overhated. I have talked about this game before, so you would not be really that surprised to see Days Gone. Now, I am an ardent Days Gone defender. I think Sam Witwer's performance as Deacon St. John is excellent. I think the story is a fairly interesting tale. But most importantly, the game is actually a lot of fun to play. The biggest problem is that it rightfully got hated back on the PS4 when it first launched because, look, let's just be real here. This was not a PS4 game. This was a PS5 game ported to PS4. And the problem with that simply is the bugs were a complete shit show, and don't even get me started on the second... Dude, I played this on a base PS4, all right? A base PS4. I am not exaggerating when I say the second area of Days Gone on PS4 ran worse than Infamous 1 did on a PS3 Super Slim. It was abysmal. But the PS5 came out. It got a 60 FPS update. It then came to PC. And hey, wouldn't you know it, when the game's actually running, it's a pretty fun open world Far Cry zombie-like. Because that's what it is. It is a Far Cry game with zombies. I will stand here and say that Days Gone is an overhated game. Now, underrated. I think this one's pretty easy for me. And that was Bioshock 2. Bioshock 1 is a masterpiece. So when Bioshock 2 came out, and it was revealed that it was not being helmed by Ken Levine, people naturally kind of felt like, it's just not as good, the story's not as strong. There were various complaints about it. But Bioshock 2 was one of those games that I played first. That was the first one in the Bioshock series that I actually played. So I got it when I got my PS3. So I had no information on Bioshock 1 beforehand. So without any of those expectations of playing Bioshock 1, going into Bioshock 2, I enjoyed myself quite a bit. The multiplayer was surprisingly fun and was actually made by Digital Extremes, the Warframe devs, in case you didn't know. The gameplay of playing a Big Daddy was a great change of pace compared to the first game. And specifically for me, when I went back and played Bioshock 1, look, just being able to use your weapons and your plasmids without having to switch hands, that's a big deal. That's a big deal for me. I like that they expanded upon the evil, good karmic system with the Little Sisters in regards to the various characters that help you along the way. And I'm going to be honest, I like the finale escalation in this more than the final boss of Bioshock 1. Would I say it's better than Bioshock 1 overall? Probably not. But there are some things it does better. And the big thing for me is the combat. The story wasn't really that bad either. I didn't mind the story at all, honestly. Okay, Overrated. This one's going to piss off quite a bit of you, I am sure. So I hope you're ready. Gears of War. Now, before you get to pitchforks, let me explain. 1, this is not Gears of War as a series. I am talking specifically about Gears of War 1. 2, growing up in high school, I did not play this game myself. Anytime I had access to Gears of War, was at a friend's house, and it was usually 2 or 3, and it was playing Horde mode. I never touched Gears of War 1 story. Now, I'm not going to hold the Ultimate Edition's technical problems against it, right? Because that's the Ultimate Edition. But eventually I got my hands on an Xbox, and I actually decided to play through Gears of War 1. And I'm going to be honest with you, playing it solo, it was just not fun. It's one of those games where, like Army of 2, this game was clearly designed for co-op play. And playing it solo really hurt my experience. So maybe playing it in a co-op environment would change my perception of it. So I eventually played through all 3 of the games. I played through Gears of War 1, 2, 3, 4 for a bit. I never finished 4 because that shit was just fucking boring as sin. And 5. I didn't play Judgment. But I gotta say, out of the original trilogy, so 1, 2, and 3, I do think Gears of War 1 is the worst one. I don't care about the multiplayer. The multiplayer was never that interesting to me, and every time I put my hands on it, I just never had fun with how it played. It's just not fun. I found myself getting angry and frustrated more than having fun with Gears of War 1 compared to 2 or 3. Because I played all of them solo, as to try and keep that perspective in check, right? So it's not like I played Gears of War 1 solo and have a good time, then played 2 and 3 in a co-op setting, where it didn't matter how bad the game actually was, because playing with a friend, anything could be good, right? But I really do think that Gears of War was an impressive game for its time, but for me, I'm sorry, I think people overrate it compared to 2 and 3. I think 2 and 3 are leagues better, especially with the Horde mode. Alright, controversial take out of the way. Let's go to, why do I like this? This was a really weird section to put. I'm still not really sure what they meant by this. Like, because I would classify this as the not using my thing, but as well. So basically for this, I decided, okay, I'm going to pick a game that's in a genre I generally do not like and use that here. And for that, I chose Hunt Showdown. I hate extraction shooters. I think the prospect of spending hours upon hours to grind out your character's gear only to lose it within a couple matches entirely is a dogshit system. But Hunt is different. And I think a lot of it has to do with the fact that Hunt kind of de-emphasizes the importance of loot and more focuses on the PvP and world element. Because one of the biggest things about Hunt is that even if you're using starter weaponry, you are still just as dangerous as someone using weapons that are only unlocked after like level 60 or something. Not to mention, the game's map design is gorgeous and the sound design is probably the best out there. It's one of the best sounding games I think I've played in my life. This is one of those games where I was expecting to fully hate and ended up really, really liking. Yeah, I think Hunt Showdown is a good thing for this. Now, game you always come back to. So the game I chose for this, it's interesting because there are multiple areas I could have put this game in. Best combat, the atmosphere, underrated, like a lot of it. But I decided to do game you always come back to, and that is Cyberpunk 2077. And a lot of that has to do with the fact that ever since its release, I have played it multiple times. Every year, I think I played through it at least twice. I am playing through it right now, replaying it again. And I don't know, there was something about the way CD Projekt designs their worlds that just completely engrosses you and gets you excited to actually explore it. Witcher 3 was the same way for me. Witcher 3, I must have put at least 400 hours into Witcher 3 as a whole. Straight up. And Cyberpunk, I think, is going to be the game that beats it out for me in that regard. I'm much more sci-fi oriented than fantasy oriented, so Cyberpunk has that over Witcher. Cyberpunk's gameplay is a lot more varied. Like you can do a lot more builds in Cyberpunk and have a good time. In Witcher 3, there's like 4 builds. And the biggest thing as well is just that, apart from the story, the loot is just not interesting in Witcher 3. But Cyberpunk, there is a lot more freedom in terms of what you can do with the world. And a lot of that has to do with them learning from Witcher 3, right? So I'm sure when Witcher 4 comes out, they're going to take the lessons they learned from Cyberpunk and broaden that even further. I just feel that Cyberpunk is an appropriate section here, like I said, because I am constantly going back to it and playing it, even though it's a single-player game. It's not a live service game. It's not Final Fantasy. It's not Destiny. It's not Night Rain. It is a single-player game. Yet I have played it so many goddamn times now, and I'm still engrossed by it. Next up is Atmosphere. Now, there were a couple games I could have put here, but I decided ultimately to choose Bioshock 1. Hey, look, a second Bioshock game. Crazy, right? I first experienced Bioshock at a friend's house. It was, I want to say, late night, like around 10, 11 p.m. He popped the disc into his 360, gave me the controller, and he said, just play. And let me tell you, that first hour and a half of experiencing the plane crash, swimming to the lighthouse, going down into that submarine, only to be attacked by a splicer, was some of the most terrifying and immersive experiences I have ever had. To the point where that shit at that time scared me. I'm not kidding, I had nightmares about that sequence. Bioshock 2 is underrated, but it still doesn't beat out the atmosphere of Bioshock 1. Bioshock 1's atmosphere, I would say, is pitch perfect, to the point where I don't know if a remake, like that one that was shelved earlier, could properly recapture it. There is something about the way the world of Rapture is designed in Bioshock 1 that just hits you on a different level. Rapture felt real to me while playing it. Alright, next up is Bad Day Cure. Once again, kind of a vague and weird. I figured the idea is something bad happened to me that day. Maybe you got fired or your girlfriend dumped you and you just need to play something that'll get your spirits up. And for me, there is no easier game to get my spirits up with than Prototype 2. As you guys know, I love Prototype 2. It's where my fucking channel name came from. Heller. That's where it came from James Heller himself. The power fantasy of just running around, viciously and mercilessly slaughtering anything in your way and being nigh unstoppable is enough to put a smile on anyone's face. Story stuff aside, the actual moment-to-moment gameplay of Prototype 2 is still some of the most fun I've ever had. It's why it never leaves my actual system. It's still on there. I don't delete it because I can always just jump right in and play even for like 20 minutes and have fun. Next up is favorite protagonist. This was an interesting one. I was initially thinking of V from Cyberpunk. I really liked V as a character, but I already used it in Game You Come Back To. So I decided, well, why don't I pick one of my other favorite franchises? And I decided to go with Nero. Nero from Devil May Cry was first introduced in Devil May Cry 4, and despite only having 2 games, honestly, if I'm being honest with you, I like him more than Dante. 4, he was kind of a pseudo-kid Dante, right, in terms of his personality. But when 5 came out, and they gave him Nico, which forced him to be the straight man, and his character growth in Devil May Cry 5, finding out about his father, coming to terms with his devil heritage, everything. The final moment when he's walking up to stop the fight between Dante and Virgil, and he name drops Credo, showing that Credo's death was a major aspect in his character development, was so pitch perfect for me that right there, that is when Nero won me over. I like him more than Dante. I like him more than Virgil. I think he's probably the best DMC protagonist, honestly. Moving on, after work relaxation. So here's the thing. This could be a variety of games, because normally after work, I would just play whatever game I have downloaded. But if I need something that can just keep me satiated for 20 minutes before I go to sleep, it's going to be Balatro. A Balatro run is simple, it's easy, and it's just satisfying to play. I think that's just, and I think it's going to be a lot of people's choice. Maybe Vampire Survivors a little bit more, but the thing about Vampire Survivors compared to Balatro is that Balatro, you know, when you're a little too tired from work and you can't finish your run, you can save and quit. Compared to Vampire Survivors, which I don't think you can. I don't remember. It's been a while since I played Vampire Survivors, but yeah, Balatro is probably going to be the number one thing for this. Next is biggest letdown, and I'm going to be honest. It's Callisto Protocol. My friend Dave and I, we were super excited when this game was first announced. Coming from Glenn Schofield, one of the visionaries behind Dead Space, this looked to be a more melee-focus-oriented Dead Space. The new monster designs were interesting. They still managed to keep the health HUD on the character. All the previews made it look absolutely great. Then we played it. And I distinctly remember Dave and I getting on to a voice chat, I think a day after. We each played, I played 8 hours, he played I think 6 or something. I forget what the ratio was. But he asked me, hey, what are your thoughts on the game? And the words out of my mouth were, I think I hate it. And a lot of it honestly has to do with the fact that this game is just wasted potential. The villain, played by Sam Witwer, is wasted. He's introduced at the very start of the prison, and he's just gone for 70% of the story until the very end. And then let's get into the combat. The combat was supposed to be a melee-oriented Dead Space. That was the idea. Cool. That's a cool idea. I think that can work. The problem with it is, this combat is designed for one-on-one engagements. So when the game throws multiple enemies at you, is when the combat really starts to break. But the biggest thing for me is, honestly, the fact that you just hold left or right on the joystick or your keyboard. You'll dodge. So there's no threat. I never felt threatened in Callisto Protocol. In a survival horror game, I never felt threatened. Because it's not like it was a timing thing. It's not like you have to time your dodges, even though there is a perfect dodge mechanic. No, you just hold left, enemy attacks, you dodge. You hold right to alternate. Ooh, wow. Dodge, hit, rinse and repeat for about 8 hours or so. That's not even getting into the fact that they sold the real ending off as DLC, and the ending sucks, dude. But yeah, Callisto Protocol was a game I was super excited to play, and by the end of it, I genuinely wanted to kill myself. Alright, back in the day game. This is a weird one, because I'm going to be honest with you, I don't know what this means. I don't know what the hell they mean by this. So I just went with a game I was enamored with when I was younger. And that game is Infamous 2. Infamous is probably my favorite PlayStation franchise. To the point where I have Cold Sling Pack and I have Delson Rose Beanie. And I remember the day this came out, this is one of the first games I pre-ordered the collector's edition from my local GameStop. I literally faked being sick for school so I can go pick it up and play this game. It's also one of the first games I ever platinumed. The first game that made me want to platinum on PlayStation. And everything about Infamous 2, I just absolutely adored. The improvements to the combat, the new area, New Marais was a fantastic place to traverse. I really liked Cole's progression, especially on both the good and evil paths. This is one of the things that the Infamous games did well until Second Son, which was the good and evil paths were really well made and designed with Cole's justification in mind. Like Evil Cole in Infamous 2, you can completely understand how Cole would come to these conclusions. Compare that to Delson Rowe, where, I'm gonna be honest, Second Son, Delson Rowe is a good guy. And every time I play that game, the evil sections just feel out of character for Delson. But yeah, back in the day game, Infamous 2, what else can I say? I just adore this game. Now, not the best, but having fun. This I decided to have a little fun with. So some of you veterans of the channel may remember when I reached 1,000 subs, I bought and got my friends to play Metal Gear Survive. As a joke, that was the idea. Oh, this game's ass. Let's go fucking check this out. Here's the funny thing. Removing the controversy of it being a Metal Gear game and how Konami treated Kojima after Metal Gear Solid 5, because that's the thing, this game came out fairly soon after that. It was actually a pretty solid survival game. We actually had quite a bit of fun to the point where I think I ended up putting 50 hours before putting it down. I had fun with this game, I'm not gonna lie. Is it the best game ever? No. Is it particularly good? As a Metal Gear game, not really. But as a survival game, at the time, just before I played The Forest and Sons of the Forest came out and Grounded and all these other way better survival games, it's actually a solid time, I'm not gonna lie. And if you're even slightly interested, and it's like $1.99, which it generally is, I would highly recommend at least checking it out. Next is Criminally Overlooked. So there were a lot of games I wanted to put here, but I think the biggest one for me had to be Lost Planet 2. Did you ever play Monster Hunter and thought, man, this shit would go hard in a third-person shooter sci-fi setting? Well, then Lost Planet 2 is for you. I still kick myself this day to never experiencing this game in its prime when you could, actually play the game online with 4 other people. Because when you're playing this game's campaign and you have 3 other friends, holy shit, it's probably some of the best co-op experiences you will have. But unfortunately, because on PC, it came out during the time for Games for Windows Live, you can't play it really. I own it, and Capcom eventually delisted the sale to try and fix it. That was like 4 years ago. I don't know if they're ever going to fix it, and it's a shame. But not to mention, the reason why it's criminally overlooked is because I never really heard about this game growing up. Straight up, I completely missed it until I got my PC back in 2020. Alright, next up is Depressing Game. You guys know me, I like my horror games, I like my sad games every now and then. Why not choose the best one I've ever played, which is Silent Hill 2. PS2 version or Bloober Team remake, doesn't really matter, but I decided to just put the cover art for the PlayStation 2 version because that's the first one I ever played. Silent Hill 2, I think, was the first game that really showed me that games can be art. Because that's what I would classify Silent Hill 2. It is art. Its narrative and its characters are probably among the best. And it is a depressing game. Let's be clear here. There is no happy ending in Silent Hill 2. but it is definitely an unforgettable experience despite how you feel when you play it. I cannot recommend you guys play this enough. If you don't have access to a PS2 or a PC capable of emulation, the remake, honestly, is a suitable replacement. But even then, I would say, if you can, play the original at least first or after. Now, favorite antagonist. There was a person I had locked in here very easily until I realized, based on my own rules, that means I would have to disqualify the game from best soundtrack, which I wasn't going to do. So, for best antagonist, I decided to choose Micah fucking Bell from Red Dead Redemption 2. Now, this is a character that is incredibly well written and that you just love to hate. Micah is probably one of the best antagonists in, I would say, in Rockstar's like entire catalog, and a lot of that has to do with how he's utilized in regards to the fall of the Vanderlyn gang. Specifically, his enabling of Dutch as his mental faculties kept on declining. I feel like Dutch was always going to lose his mind eventually, but Micah absolutely accelerated it for his own vain validation. Look, I'm not going to spoil the ending of Red Dead 2, but you guys know where it goes, those of you who played it. That's why I think he's one of my favorites. I was initially going to go with Iguazu from Armored Core 6, but the problem with that is Armored Core 6 has multiple endings, and Iguazu is only the antagonist in one of those endings. So that's why I was like, I'd rather choose a more definitive character. That's what made me land on Micah. Now next, best soundtrack. You all know it. I've been sucking this game's dick ever since it released earlier this year. Clair Obscur Expedition 33. A game I adore so much, my crab now has a baguette. Straight up. Permanently. Right? And this soundtrack. So, there were multiple games I could have put here. I could have put Persona, but once again, it's already here. I could have put Cyberpunk. Once again, it's already here. Clair Obscur's soundtrack, especially under the lens of this was just some guy on SoundCloud that they found, is nothing short of a masterpiece. Even if turn-based games aren't your thing, or Clair Obscur doesn't interest you as a video game, I cannot recommend you guys enough to at the very least listen to the soundtrack. It is a soundtrack I sent to my parents, let me put it that way, and they were impressed by it. Seriously, go give it a listen. And last but certainly not least, we have, not usually my thing, but once again, this is another one of those categories here that I felt was like, this is a little too vague and a little too similar to some one of these other ones, like, why do I like this? But, like I said, with why do I like this, I decided to use a genre I hate, but a game in said genre I like. So for this, I decided to go with, I'm not usually a big fan of these genres, or I don't play them a lot, but this one really scratches that itch. And that's going to be Mountain Blade 2 Bannerlord. I don't play sim games. I rarely do, and even then, most of the time, I'm not really having too much fun. But I don't really hate them, but there is something about Mountain Blade 2, and just the feeling of building your own empire or helping another empire and securing secret deals. The sandbox nature of this game. You know what it is? It's the fact that this game is Civilization, but you get to actually fight in the battles yourself. And the first time I played this franchise actually was on PS4 with the first game. I am not kidding. I ended up spending 2 days straight playing Mountain Blade Warband. And the same thing happened with Bannerlord. And with Bannerlord's ship expansion coming, I think, later this year, I am looking forward to playing more Bannerlord. But yeah, that's going to be, I think that's going to be the one for me. Whew, boy, that was a lot of them. Oh, man, that was a lot of them. Anyway, this was the video I wasn't really expecting to make, but like I said, I'm sleep deprived, right? So I decided, fuck it, we'll see what we can do here. I hope you guys enjoyed it. I don't know how many more of these will happen, but I figured, hey, might as well give you guys some content while I work on the actual real videos, right? Because I still got that Sony thing to talk about, then there's the Nintendo thing, but blah, blah, blah. You guys already know this already. Thank you guys for tuning in. If you enjoyed the video, like, comment, and subscribe if you feel so inclined. As always, to stay up to date on all things crab, you can follow me on Twitter via the link in the description below. And if you're looking for a way to support the channel, you can consider becoming a member. For only 99 cents a month, you get access to the community Discord, the Crab Shack. Once you're in for good, as well as emotes you can harass me with live on streams. But with all that out of the way, I will see you guys in the next video.